Hello, Internet, and welcome back to our little ghost town of Granted Dreams, where I am the only person still on. Or, welcome back to the last episode of Titancraft for this season. Very definitely, since the season end is this week, and all of my projects are finished. It's been a while since last time I was back at this little starter base, and I feel like this is the appropriate spot to start my tour. The same place I started my very first YouTube episode. Of course, it looks a little different now than it did back then. Gifts from the Ravine crew. A shulker box I won out of Decode's tag puzzle. Although, strictly speaking, this is not the shulker box I won, but rather the shulker box I traded for because I wanted it to match my in-game username, and we'd had some amusement out of the shulker boxes each being letter named. And we've got a banner that I looted from the end opening. Same cute little shrubbery that I put in here on the very first day. Mostly the same cute little garden, though I recall flooding it about 3 times trying to figure out how to put in a secret passage back there. And of course, the new addition, as of the tag game, the addition of ender pearls, because my version of the tag puzzle very much required ender pearls to get through. And now we sneak on back through my secret tunnel to where it's been closed off down here at the end. And that connects into somebody else's base. And we have my cute little secret hot springs. Lovely place to sit and relax and plan my next build. And to get some interesting views of this ravine as I clip through the blocks. And the entrance to my hidden tag puzzle. This lovely intricate maze that might kill you if you're not careful with the wither roses. And there were 2 hiding spots that I had considered putting the tag in. And I put prizes in both of them, even though I only put the tag in one of them. One of them was in this tree trunk over here. That anyone who could successfully ender pearl through that gap deserved a reward. I believe that's likely to go through the entirety of the ender pearls I brought with me, though, since I can't consistently do it. And the actual hiding spot for the tag. Back in that little gap right here. Which might take more than 1 ender pearl from me to get through, but is at least easier. And would have been sitting right back here. And the barrel was a new addition, so that the extra prize, or was, I think, actually there the entire time, so that my extra prizes could be accessed. And then you have to ender pearl right back on out. Excuse me, I just heard the sound of absolute nuisances. Goodbye, Endermite. And since this is a tour focused on the things I did, rather than the things everybody did, because if I was doing a tour that showed off the things everybody did, we would be here for about 10 hours, and I would be stomping on what Tango is doing in his end-of-season stream. I'm just going to showcase the things I was part of. I put in that stairwell. So I believe that corner of the stairs was not my work and was part of the later renovations to upgrade the fence up there. I also am responsible for the warped bridge here. I think that had initially been covered over, but it might have been always there, and I might be responsible for the awkward block of cobblestone. In which case, I apologize, Internet. And we have over there the little farmhouse that I don't think I properly showcased in my first video. But this was our starter base to build our starter base, as it were. Rude. Isn't this place supposed to be fully lit up? Be gone, baby zombie. Okay, this might be remarkably more challenging just because I have shaders on and therefore have the frame rate of my computer catching on fire. And we still have some of the original chests from our day one crew sitting on around here. I picked up mine, but mine had been, I think, over here? Oh well. It's amusing how much of this hasn't changed and how much of it very much has. For instance, that window is new. All of this landscaping? New addition. These were in here fairly early, but they are very definitely man-made. There used to be a storage room down here, and now it is a dramatic table. I have no idea what's going on back there, and frankly, I'm scared to ask. We skip on past the farming ravine. The signs of a tag puzzle. The second half of Karma's highly sus base and associated maze. That maze was evil, involving carpets and fences and a basically invisible maze. However, it was significantly less evil than, let's say, the honey maze over here. This maze was evil. Because it's honey and cobwebs. And also, about 3 buttons scattered on through, one of which will open up the door, and it's a different one each time, and it changes periodically based on redstone clocks. And once you finally get into the last room, then still had to deal with actually solving whatever the combination was, or the clue for the item that you had to put into the hopper to actually complete the puzzle. And we have the back door for how to bypass most of the maze. But it's nice to wander on through this maze and see all of its evil glory. I'm just going to head down what I know to be a dead end, so that I can show off the other feature that had Dee very annoyed with my maze. The fact that every dead end was marked with warped wood. Sure, this made it easier to spot at a distance where the dead ends were. But it also meant that it was so annoying because it ruined warped wood for him. I used this maze twice because digging it out in its full scope took a while, and therefore I only managed to get it halfway done for the first iteration, but I also had an idea for how to expand it from that. And that involved a key at the bottom of the lake. Specifically, this redstone lever, in addition to opening up my storage area for actually working on this, there had been about another 3 chests. Sorry. No, it hadn't been chests. It had been an entire wall of shulkers sitting in here, and in here, and a stone cutter. And we had this lever that opened up that room that I was using while I was working on the project. However, that lever also controlled whether or not the final door at the end of the maze was open. which meant that even after you'd gotten all the way through the maze and had solved it, you had to go back, probably, and open it up the door, and there was a chance it would slow people down because you'd had to solve the maze again, and most people probably didn't write down the solution to the maze. There used to be a full collection of cauldrons out this way, but they've been put off to the side here in one corner, so we can't have all of Ravine crew chilling in hot tubs, waiting for the end fight anymore. Then again, we can't have that again, because there's only one end fight per season, and that's already happened. History does not repeat, regardless of how much we might wish it to. It does, however, rhyme, so maybe next season we'll also have chilling in hot tubs. Or some new gimmick. I had nothing to do with building the Nether hub, but it looks amazing. Heresy, somebody else actually logging on. What is this? Thought I had this server to myself. And here we have my beautiful, beautiful stained glass shop. Oh, and the light rays and the shaders tracing through the stained glass windows. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Such glorious, glorious shaders. And some of the window panes, beautifully unfinished. Because yes, I could have come through and finished this, but it didn't need it. And since this was a shop, going through in the last week and cleaning it up, it feels like a lie. Because the last time I actually restocked this was about a month ago, so coming in after I'd already decided that I wasn't willing to keep restocking it for the end of the season where everyone's been gone, and coming in and redoing the windows would have made it seem like the shop was still getting more attention than it was. And we have the cute little secret entrance into the employee section, where we still have a mess of shulkers that I could use to restock it with. And I'm just going to peek into Tainted's chest. 2 full stacks of diamonds that have never been claimed. And down to the opposite Nether Tunnel from the one I was in, which is about the only way I know I can find this place again. And I found it again. Grimwolf's base. Complete with the Nether Tunnel that absolutely hates flying that I'd forgotten about. And here it remains, forever unfinished, but still progressed an awful lot farther than it had any right to be. The draining of an ocean by 2 people. Grim had commissioned Ravine crew, but most of us weren't willing to actually do it. Or Grim had attempted to commission the Ravine crew in general, having negotiated with raining trees. However, most people of Ravine crew looked at the job description and went, no, that is an unreasonably large amount of area, and that's ridiculous. So it was just me and raining trees, putting in the sand, and going through with sponges, and slowly but surely, de-watering this area. And we never did finish. And here we have my Nether Tunnel, swaying slightly in the non-existent breeze from my shaders. My lovely Nether Tunnel, glittering sparkling lights hiding in the trees, draped with vines, overgrown with moss and weathered stone. And plenty of little wither roses scattered in amongst the far end of the tunnel, just to give it more character. And here we have this particular end of the tunnel, decorated with an excessive amount of lanterns. And the exit from my nether tunnel, which I finished a bit before, or well before I finished my actual nether tunnel, a design that I believe I borrowed inspiration from Grian's portal suggestions video, though I made a very different version of the portal overgrown with tree than he did. My castle gate, which didn't quite line up with my initial plan, and I'd ended up having to expand that by an extra block up, which I then decided it was big enough that it needed special decoration of its own. And the little gatehouse that I was using as my base out here, and for a while, the way up was vines growing along on that wall, because this wall was added an awful lot later than me actually building my initial gatehouse. But now, it stands so beautifully and imposing over the landscape. Even on the outside of the wall, it still looks almost decent. And the swamp version of my flower farm, because some flowers only grow out in the swamp. And I managed to find a flower forest right next to a swamp, which was a lucky break. Oh, the lanterns hanging like little stars. And now we actually load in the banners, but it still looks amazing when you're out at a far enough distance. The banners don't render, and all you've got are the little stars of light floating in the night. I love it. Love it so much. My flower farm, the initial sort of design I had, which was entirely home-designed redstone, derived from first principles. It works reasonably well. It just has the disadvantage of being slow, and when you need to fill a shulker box with flowers, it's not fast enough. So I went and Googled for a faster design, and got to this one. The recommendation was to do it with a lever so that you could actually stop it safely instead of doing what I have been doing with moving dots of redstone dust. There should be an extra dot of redstone dust. Apparently, one of my dots of redstone dust went missing when I was doing the move the redstone around. I love looking at the shaders. The SL Shaders does a very lovely sunrise. The custom trees I added between the last episode and now. I did them on stream during one of my many Titancraft Thursdays, which for most of the world is in fact Titancraft Wednesdays, but I will not change, and it's Thursday in my time zone. Little houses I made on stream populate my village, but the bee farm was there almost from the beginning. This little bee and flower bunker. It's been here so long. It still works. So much wax. Never did fill up the chest, but that was because I was generally using the wax for something or actively selling it. Little fountain I added. And of course, the shrine on the hill. It started as a design to hide the beacon I'd built, and then I got inspired by Pixel Riff's Empire's the design of his vigil. And so here we have my own vigil, honoring members of Titancraft. And out back here is where my neighbor would have built a mountain had my neighbor stuck around to actually finish building their mountain. We have some of the scaffolding for it. but it too remains beautifully unfinished. As you can see, I did eventually give in and light up the roof on my build, but it was satisfying for a while, watching mobs fall off my roof and die from falling damage. Up until I had to patch a creeper hole because the creeper didn't properly die from falling damage, and I decided that was around the point where it needed to actually be lit up. And some of my buildings around here are wonkier than others, but having them all have like the same sort of style, the spruce logs, the weathered copper roof with amethyst, the accent calcite, the accent deep slate, all variations on the same theme, and all uniquely different, helps give the feeling like this is an actual village rather than made by a single individual. Of course, I did make all of this, but it's worth putting in the effort for appearances. It looks much darker with my shaders on, but at the same time, glowberries shine so much brighter, the lanterns give their own little character, amethyst glittering, and then we have down here this little smaller nook with the glittering candles and the emerald ceiling, and the tight dripping caves, the amethyst spire reaching on up, basalt spire reaching on up, diamond again glittering through my cave, and the dragon looming not quite as imposingly as it could be, given the glowberry vines kind of block the dragon. But that would mean trimming some of my glowberry vines, and I'm not going to do that. Looks at the string that's glittering on around as evidence that I did, in fact, trim some of my glowberry vines. Shush. I still like the obstructed view through my cave because it makes the cave feel a much deeper space when you can't quite see all of it, and you have to keep going through the different perspectives to see what's going on. And this is what the dragon looks like when I've finally gotten it all oxidized and carved back to just the right levels of oxidation on each of the things. The subtle gradient, the deep blue scales on its back, the bright orange copper scales on its underbelly, and the soft, gently curving gradient between them. We have the stairway leading on up to my Amethyst Geode, which is not the primary source of the amethyst I used, because I did keep finding Amethyst Geodes every few mining sessions in the resource world, but I did harvest several stacks of amethyst blocks from this geode. So this stairs both serve an aesthetic function to make it look like stuff's going on in the cave, and a very practical function of allowing me to glide on across and gather more amethyst. And I love coming out of this cave and the view of the sky. And there are valid stairs for how to get up here. However, my general approach for how to get up there is to Riptide Trident. But since I missed my initial Riptide Trident, I will point out where the actual stairs are, besides going around the very long way. Over here on the wall, we have a door. And we have a stairwell that I never did finish reterraining the bottom of the stairs. Oops. And on up in the top of the tower, we have my storage room, because the initial storage I'd started with just wasn't enough. And of course, that building right there was built as a stone-specific storage. And of course, we can see hanging on the wall here my real mega build for this season. Because sure, I was able to fit all of the footage from that time lapse into a 5-minute video, but that was because I put it 512 times speed. And sure, it fits in this nice little corner on my wall. But that is a 128 by 128 by 20 grid of blocks there. Because I didn't just build this as a flat map art like a sane, sensible person. Oh no! I used the valley method. And we have Sparks, equally impressive mega build for the season. Her map art. And of course, there's one final project I'm going to showcase on this tour, because Unfading Sky built Hogwarts this season, and I put a full room's interior. My involvement stopped there. You can see, in fact, the line where I stopped my section of the room. But I did the entirety of the interior work in this section. Little potted plants hanging decoratively from the ceiling. Redoing the sandstone so that the interior walls ended up working. Like that detailing on the interior of the windows, my work. The framing around the door, I did. I think the pillars were already here. Did you see that cute little hourglass? The interior framing around the window panes. That balcony level. I believe there was some balcony pre-existing as part of the tower bit. I finished up the balcony, extended it around the windows. I put in those stairs. Decorate all of the decoration there on the little archways. Little book nook. Another little book nook. Complete with a tiny bit of shrubbery. All of the little reading benches and the desks and the several different permutations of desk design. Some private desks for students to study. Some desks for a bunch of people to gather around and work together on a group project. A little reading nook. A large communal desk. Several potted plants. In varying scales of potted plant. And those pressure plates were already there as part of the initial window design. So I had to incorporate the towers having that ring, and the windows having it one block lower. And also, I like my little balcony level, or little window level there, and having the little flower pots and the torches, and those little brackets to create that little shelving area, because even if you can't physically reach it, it's still lined up with an open area that I felt needed to have something. And I felt putting in a floor here just didn't quite fit the grand open aesthetic. And I believe that's the tour. Those are the things I've done so far this season of Titancraft that I thought were worth remembering. And now, accompanied by the setting of the sun, I say goodbye to this season of Titancraft. And so I bid you good night, Internet. And I hope to see you in the next season.